The crystal chandelier sparkled overhead as I adjusted my simple black dress, a deliberate choice for my father's lavish 60th birthday celebration. Around me, the elite of the business world mingled in designer suits and couture gowns, all gathered in my parents' mansion to celebrate the great Michael Anderson, CEO of Anderson Industries. "Emily, darling." My mother's voice carried across the room. "Come meet the Hendersons. They're dying to hear about what do you call it? Your small business." I suppressed a smile, thinking of the stack of contracts waiting to be executed on Monday. My small business, Black Swan Enterprises, had spent the past 5 years quietly acquiring controlling interests in key supply chain companies. Companies that Anderson Industries and their partners depended on, though they didn't know it yet. "Just a modest consulting firm," I replied, shaking hands with the Hendersons. "Nothing like your shipping empire." Robert Henderson smiled condescendingly. "Consulting? How quaint. Though I suppose someone has to handle the small accounts." If only he knew that his company's recent mysterious loss of major contracts was my doing. By Monday, Henderson Shipping would be begging for the small accounts they'd dismissed. "Emily's always been independent," my mother explained apologetically, "though we hoped she'd join Anderson Industries after her MBA. I remembered that conversation 5 years ago. Dad had offered me an executive position expecting gratitude. Instead, I'd declined, choosing to start my own company. "You'll never succeed alone," he declared. "Business is about connections, about legacy." He was right about connections, just not the ones he meant. "Still running that little office downtown?" My brother James appeared, champagne in hand. As Dad's heir apparent, he never missed a chance to remind me of my place in the family hierarchy. "The same one," I confirmed, thinking of my real headquarters, 40 stories of prime real estate in the business district, operating under a different name. The party continued, a parade of subtle jabs and patronizing comments about my cute little business venture. I played my part, smiling modestly, letting them believe what they wanted. Until my phone buzzed. "Ms. Blake," my assistant's message read, "all acquisitions are complete. Should we proceed with Monday's announcements?" I looked around the room at the gathered business elite, my father's peers, all of whom had dismissed me as nothing more than a small-time consultant. None of them knew that their companies now essentially worked for me. "Emily," Dad called out. "Come here, princess. Tell everyone about your consulting work." I walked over, laptop in hand, thinking how different Monday's headlines would be. Black Swan Enterprises reveals industry-wide acquisition strategy. But for now, I'd play along with their assumptions. After all, the best revenge is served at exactly the right moment. "You know, Emily," my father's voice boomed across the gathering crowd, champagne glass raised, "I always tell people my daughter chose the simpler path." Laughter rippled through the group of executives. "But we support her little dreams, don't we?" I opened my laptop discreetly, typing a quick message to my team. "Initiate Protocol Omega. Release the press statements at exactly 9 p.m. It was 8:57. The party had reached that point where the alcohol had loosened tongues and inhibitions. Around me, titans of industry bragged about their latest acquisitions and mergers, each story more grandiose than the last. "Just closed a deal with Asian markets," Robert Henderson announced proudly. "Expanding our shipping routes through Singapore." I smiled, knowing those routes now secretly belonged to Black Swan Enterprises. They just didn't know it yet. "What about you, Emily?" James smirked, swirling his bourbon. "Any exciting consultations lately? Help any small businesses with their tax returns." Before I could answer, Thomas Chen, CEO of Global Tech Solutions, joined our circle. "Anderson, your daughter's firm actually did some work for one of our subsidiaries last year. Very thorough." He smiled patronizingly. "We always try to support up-and-coming businesses." What Chen didn't know was that his subsidiary had been my entry point into his company. Through a complex web of shell corporations and silent acquisitions, Black Swan now controlled 51% of global tech supply chain. "Actually," I said, checking my watch, 8:59 p.m., "I have been working on something rather interesting." "Oh." My father raised an eyebrow. "Do tell us about your latest small business success." The room's attention turned to me, their expressions a mixture of condescension and polite interest. My phone buzzed silently. Everything was in place. "Well," I began, opening my laptop, It's quite a comprehensive project. Would you mind if I showed you all a brief presentation? At my birthday party? Dad laughed. Really, Princess, this isn't a business meeting. Trust me, I smiled, connecting my laptop to the room's massive display screen. You'll want to see this. 9 p.m. The screen came to life, displaying the Black Swan Enterprises logo, a simple, elegant black swan against a white background. Simultaneously, every phone in the room began buzzing with notifications. Breaking news. Black Swan Enterprises reveals major industry shakeup. Mystery Corporation controls majority stakes in top supply chains. Wall Street stunned by massive strategic acquisition revelation. The room fell silent as the executives scrambled to check their phones. My father's glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the marble floor. As of 5 minutes ago, I announced to the stunned crowd, Black Swan Enterprises has revealed its controlling interests in 17 major supply chain companies, 32 logistics operations, and 46 key distribution networks. I clicked to the next slide, showing a complex web of interconnected companies. Companies that I believe most of you depend on. This is impossible, Henderson stammered, his face pale. Black Swan, we've never even heard of them. Haven't you? I smiled. We've been handling your small accounts for years. Through various subsidiaries, of course. Different names, different faces, but all leading back to one source. I gestured to myself. My little consulting firm was just the tip of the iceberg. James pushed forward, his face red with anger and alcohol. You're bluffing. There's no way you could have built an empire right under your noses? I clicked through slides showing acquisition details, corporate structures and financial statements. While you were all laughing at my small business, I was quietly buying controlling interests in the companies you can't function without. My father had sunk into a chair, his face ashen. The Singapore routes. He muttered. Are mine, I confirmed. Along with the European distribution networks, the Asian manufacturing hubs, and the American logistics chains. Everything you all dismissed as small accounts or minor subsidiaries, I bought them all. But the money, Chen interjected. The resources needed for acquisitions of this scale come from 5 years of strategic planning, careful investments, and yes, all those cute consulting jobs you threw my way. Every contract you thought was beneath you became my stepping stone. The room erupted in chaos as executives rushed to make calls, check contracts, and verify my claims. My phone buzzed continuously as news outlets picked up the story. Starting Monday, I continued over the commotion, all your companies will need to renegotiate their supply chain contracts. With me. I closed my laptop. Happy birthday, Dad. Sorry about upstaging your party. My mother had pressed herself against the wall, one hand over her mouth. James was frantically calling his lawyers. And my father just stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. You planned this, he whispered. All of it. The timing, the party. You taught me well, I replied. Business is about connections and legacy, remember? I just created my own. The aftermath of my announcement transformed my father's birthday party into an impromptu emergency board meeting. Executives huddled in corners, frantically calling their offices on a Saturday night. The celebration's festive atmosphere had evaporated, replaced by the sharp tension of realized vulnerability. This is corporate terrorism, Henderson shouted, his face purple with rage. You can't just come in and... Actually, I can, I interrupted, pulling up another slide. Everything was done legally through public markets and willing sellers. Your own boards approved these sales, gentlemen. You just never bothered to look past the shell companies to see who was really buying. My phone rang. It was Marcus Zhang, my chief operating officer. Emily, CNBC wants an exclusive. Bloomberg too. The Wall Street Journal is running a front-page story for Monday's edition with the headline, The Black Swan Event That Transformed Global Industry. Hold all interviews until Monday, I instructed. For now, just release the prepared statements. James stormed over, waving his phone. Our lawyers will fight this. You can't possibly think you'll get away with. With what exactly? I asked, pulling up his company's acquisition documents. With legally purchasing shares? With investing in undervalued assets? with building a business empire while you were all too busy mocking my small business to notice. The screen showed a complex web of transactions, each meticulously documented and completely legal. 5 years of careful planning executed flawlessly. Mr. Anderson, my assistant's voice came through the speaker system. The Asian markets are opening. They're requesting an immediate statement regarding the Black Swan announcements. My father, still sitting shell-shocked in his chair, finally spoke. How much do you control? I clicked through to the financial summary. Black Swan Enterprises now holds controlling interests in companies worth a combined market cap of $147 billion. But more importantly, we control the supply chains that your companies depend on. The room fell silent as the number displayed on screen. By Monday morning, I continued, your stock prices will reflect this new reality. Your shareholders will demand explanations. And your boards will want to know how you missed this massive strategic reorganization happening right under your noses. What do you want? Chen asked quietly. Money? Board seats? I laughed. I already have both. What I want is recognition. Respect. For all of you to acknowledge that while you were laughing at my little consulting firm, I was building something bigger than any of your individual companies. My mother approached cautiously. Emily, honey, surely we can work something out. Family. I interrupted. Was it family when you apologized to everyone for my modest career choices? When Dad here insisted I'd never succeed without his help? When James made sure everyone knew I was just playing at business? I clicked to the next slide, showing Black Swan's organizational structure. This is my family now. A global network of companies, executives, and innovations that I built. Without your names, your connections, or your approval. The room's attention was drawn to breaking news alerts on the giant screen. Black Swan Enterprises reveals global supply chain dominance. Mystery CEO Alexandra Emily Anderson controls industry's hidden infrastructure. Wall Street braces for Monday as Black Swan event reshapes corporate landscape. Starting Monday, I announced to the stunned room, every company represented here will need to renegotiate their supply chain contracts. Your costs will increase. Your terms will change. And you'll all do business my way, efficiently, innovatively, and without the old boys club mentality that's held this industry back. My father stood slowly, his birthday celebration forgotten. You could destroy us. I could, I agreed. But unlike you, Dad, I believe in building things up, not tearing them down. Black Swan isn't about destruction. It's about transformation. Your companies will adapt, evolve, or yes, possibly fail. But that's business, isn't it? Just then the doors opened and a team of Black Swan executives entered, led by Marcus Zhang. Ms. Anderson, the preliminary market reactions are coming in from Asia. They're calling it the most brilliant strategic acquisition plan in modern business history. The room watched as my real team, diverse, young, innovative, took their places around me. No old boys club, no legacy hires, just pure talent and determination. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the shell-shocked party guests. I suggest you all head back to your offices. You have a lot of work to do before markets open on Monday. I turned to my father. Happy birthday, Dad. Sorry about the party, but I thought it was time for your gift, a lesson in modern business. As the executives rushed out, already barking orders into their phones, my mother caught my arm. Emily, what happens now? I looked around the emptying room at the abandoned champagne glasses and scattered business cards. Now we build something better. Something bigger than family names and old connections. Something that might actually change the world. My phone buzzed with another message. The Asian markets had started responding to the news. Black Swan's revealed holdings were already affecting global stock futures. Ms. Anderson, Marcus called, the contracts are ready for Monday. I nodded, then turned back to my parents and James. I'll see you all in the boardroom on Monday. 9 a.m. sharp. Don't be late, I run my meetings on time. As I walked out with my team, I heard my father whisper to my mother, Our daughter owns us all. And for the first time in 5 years, I allowed myself to really smile. The small business owner had just become the biggest player in the game. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's rewriting the rules of success itself. The Black Swan had taken flight and nothing in the business world would ever be the same. The following weeks transformed the business landscape. My father's 60th birthday party became legendary in corporate circles. The night when the old guard realized they'd been outmaneuvered by the very person they'd underestimated. Black Swan Enterprises headquarters buzzed with activity as we implemented our long-planned restructuring. Companies that had once dismissed us now waited anxiously in our reception area, hoping to secure favorable terms in the new order. 1 month after the announcement, I sat in my office reviewing the changes. Our efficiency measures had already increased productivity by 30% across the supply chain network. Stock prices had stabilized, with Black Swan emerging as a major market force. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Who's my father? The board meeting's not until tomorrow, I said, not looking up from my reports. I'm not here for the meeting, he replied, looking older than his 60 years. I'm here to say something I should have said long ago. I finally met his gaze. You proved me wrong, he continued. Not just about business but about everything. The way you built this. He gestured to the empire around us. It's revolutionary. And I'm proud of you. Proud enough to learn from me? I asked, sliding a document across my desk. Because I'm looking for a senior advisor who understands old-school business but is willing to embrace new methods. He picked up the contract, eyes widening at the terms. You trust me with that? Trust is earned, I replied. Just like respect. Are you ready to earn both? The sun set over the city skyline, casting long shadows across my office. The corporate world had changed, and with it, perhaps so could the relationships that had driven me to create this revolution in the first place. After all, even black swans can teach old birds new ways to fly.